If you are feeling disheartened, that you are somehow not enough, set your heart ablaze. Dry your eyes and look ahead. You may feel like digging your heels in, but the flow of time waits for no one. It won't patiently stand by as you grieve.
Today, I want to talk about a character who defines the very concept of a hero. Kyojuro Rengoku is a shining beacon of positivity, unwavering determination, and total selflessness. His vibrant appearance mimics the sun itself, and his boisterous laugh can clear any room of gloom. We know him as the Flame Hashira, the passionate mentor, and the man who turned a standard train ride into a masterpiece of courage. But if we only see the hero, we miss the heart of the man. Behind that relentless smile, that confident posture, and that explosive power, there lies a profound psychological narrative. It is a narrative about the burden of expectations, the pain of paternal rejection, and a crucial choice that defines his short yet impactful life. Rengoku is more than just a strong warrior. He is a moral compass for a world lost in darkness. While other Hashira are often defined by their tragedies or their eccentricities, Rengoku is defined entirely by his purpose. His mission is his entire existence, and his happiness is derived not from personal achievement, but from the simple act of fulfilling his duty. The foundation of the flame, Ruka Rengoku's legacy. To understand Kyojuro, we must first understand the woman who built his moral foundation, his mother, Ruka Rengoku. In the brief flashbacks we see, Ruka is depicted as a woman of immense grace, but also immense clarity. She knew she was dying, and in her final moments, she didn't just offer comfort to her son. She offered him a philosophy that would act as his guiding star. She asked him a question that would haunt and guide him until his final breath.
なぜ自分が人よりも強く生まれたのかわかりますか?
Her answer was the seed of everything Kyojuro became. She told him that those blessed with more talent, more strength, and more capability than others have a divine obligation to use that strength for the sake of the world. In her eyes, strength was not a gift for the individual to enjoy. It was a loan from the universe that must be repaid through service. This is the psychological anchor of Kyojuro Rengoku. Most people seek strength to escape their fears. Kyojuro was taught from a young age that his strength didn't actually belong to him. This created a personality that is almost entirely devoid of ego. He's a man who has completely aligned his personal identity with his moral duty. The shattered mirror, Shinjuro's nihilism. However, the light of his mother was countered by the suffocating darkness of his father, Shinjuro Rengoku. Shinjuro was once the Flame Hashira himself, a man of legendary strength. But something broke inside him. The death of his wife, combined with the realization of the infinite gap between human strength and the power of the original sun breathing, sent him into a spiral of nihilism. Shinjuro represents the dark path of the warrior. He discovered that the flame breathing he practiced was merely a derivative, a weak imitation of the first style. This realization crushed his pride. He stopped believing in effort and turned to alcohol and bitterness, becoming a man who actively tried to extinguish the fire in his own children. Imagine the psychological pressure on young Kyojuro. He had just lost his mother, the only person who truly understood him. He turned to his father for guidance, for a way to process his grief. Instead, he found a man who told him that his dreams were worthless. Shinjuro didn't just ignore Kyojuro, he actively insulted him. He told him that he had no talent and that his efforts were a waste of time. Most children who face this level of paternal rejection either become desperate for approval or they turn into rebels. Kyojuro did neither. He decided to inherit the flame anyway. Because his father refused to teach him, Kyojuro taught himself. He spent months poring over old flame-breathing manuals. Every swing of his sword was a conquest over his father's neglect. The mask of the eternal smile. People often ask why Rengoku is always smiling. Why are his eyes always wide, staring forward with such intensity? From a psychological perspective, that smile is a choice. It is a form of psychological armor. In a household filled with the stench of alcohol and the weight of silence, Kyojuro's smile was his way of protecting his younger brother, Shinjuro. He knew that if he faltered, if he showed the pain of their father's words, Shinjuro would have no hope left. Kyojuro became the son for his brother because their father had become a black hole. His optimism is not the result of a happy life. It is the result of a deliberate decision to remain warm in a cold world. This is the central irony of his story. His father thought despair was the only realistic reaction to a cruel world. But Rengoku proved that optimism is the ultimate form of courage. While his father built a wall of bitterness to hide from the world, Rengoku built a heart of fire to illuminate it. The philosophy of the train, protecting the 200, the Mugen Train arc, is where we see Rengoku's philosophy put into practice under extreme pressure. Most Hashira would focus solely on the demon, but for Rengoku, the mission and the passengers were one and the same. His command to Tanjiro, Inosuke, and Zenitsu was simple. Not a single person shall die. This is an impossible standard for a demon slayer. Yet Rengoku treated this goal as a mathematical absolute. He moved with such speed and precision that he protected 5 train cars simultaneously. This speaks to his internal validation. He didn't need a crowd to cheer for him. He needed to know that he fulfilled the promise he made to his dying mother. In those moments on the train, Rengoku was the most realized version of himself, a man who had become a literal shield for the innocent. The clash of ideologies. Rengoku versus Akaza. The arrival of Akaza changes the tone of the story entirely. Akaza represents the path of eternal growth. He is a demon who has discarded his humanity in exchange for the pursuit of absolute power. When Akaza looks at Rengoku, he sees someone he respects. Akaza offers him the standard deal. Become a demon and live forever. Preserve this strength. Never face the degradation of old age and death. This is the ultimate temptation for a warrior. Akaza offers a life where Rengoku can swing his sword for hundreds of years. But Rengoku's response is the turning point of his character development. He says that growing old and dying is what gives meaning and beauty to the fleeting span of a human life. It is precisely because we age and die that our lives are precious and honorable. Akaza cannot understand this. For a demon, mortality is a curse. For Rengoku, mortality is the very thing that makes our effort, our compassion, and our courage so valuable. He understands that a life that lasts forever, disconnected from the struggle of humanity, is just a hollow existence. Strength is not about how long you last, but about what you do with the time you have. The final stand, the will to stay human. The battle with Akaza is a brutal display of human limits versus infinite regeneration. Rengoku loses an eye. His ribs are crushed. Yet, he does not stop. In the final moments of the fight, when Akaza's arm is pierced through Rengoku's chest, we see the true power of the Flame Hashira. It wasn't his breathing technique. It was his spirit. He clamped down on Akaza's arm with his own body, refusing to let the demon escape until the sun rose. Even as he was dying, Rengoku was thinking about his duty. He ignored his instincts to flee. He chose to fight until the very last second. This is what Rengoku teaches us about ambition. There is nothing wrong with being sharp and tough. However, if your only goal is to seek power for the sake of power, you will never have enough. Akaza is a warning of a life spent running on a treadmill of endless fighting. Rengoku is a beacon of a life spent for others. The departure, a smile in the face of death. As the sun begins to rise and Akaza flees like a coward, Rengoku sits in the dirt, mortally wounded. There is no resentment. There is no anger towards his father. In his final moments, he sees a vision of his mother. He asks if he did a good job. When she smiles and tells him he did a wonderful job, Rengoku smiles back. That final smile is the most genuine one we see. The armor is gone. The duty is fulfilled. He gives his final words to Tanjiro, telling him to believe in himself and to set his heart ablaze. He tells his brother to follow his own heart, and he tells his father to take care of his body. Even in death, Rengoku offers nothing but love and encouragement. he took the fire of his father's hatred and turned it into the warmth of a legacy. Conclusion. Setting your heart ablaze. What can we learn from the Flame Hashira? First, that your self-worth is not determined by external approval. Rengoku took pride in his path because he stayed true to his internal moral compass. Second, that true strength is not power for its own sake. Strength must be anchored in something larger than the self. Third, that true strength is the courage to trust the future. For Rengoku, it was trusting Tanjiro to carry on his flame. That trust is where he found his true freedom. Rengoku did not die in failure. He died in total victory. He reminds us that we are all fighting our own demons. The victory of Kyojuro Rengoku was choosing to remain human, with all the vulnerability and warmth that comes with it. He chose a burning short life over a cold, eternal one. He stopped proving himself to his father and started living for the future. Set your heart ablaze. Be as tough as Rengoku when facing the world's challenges, but never let your heart freeze, because strength that cannot be shared is the truest form of weakness. Rengoku showed us that even if the sun sets, the fire we start in others can keep the world warm until the next dawn.